You guys. I did, I swear. No, again, I think, going up against this team, really veteran group, smart football team, really well coached, all those things. So we got our hands full as an offense just to, be able to execute on every play. They make it really tough on every play. We're just going to go out there and execute and do everything that we can to, do everything, every single down that we can to execute and move forward from there.
As you took a little time during the bye to sort of evaluate so far, where do you feel like this offense is, and what do you want to see the next step be?
Yeah, I think I think for us it's just every single play having attention to detail, and I think that starts with me. Being able to move the ball forward. The first and second down negative plays. I think just continuing to move the ball forward was a big point of emphasis for us, and whether that's when we run the ball or throw the ball, getting 2-3 yard gains as opposed to getting into those 2nd and 10s or 2nd and 11 pluses. That can make it tough for an offense because the defense gets into some of their longer distance calls and can make life a little bit harder for us. So I think just staying positive on first and second down was a huge key looking back at the bye week.
Coaches tend to use this time to self-scout and review how things go. You as a player, do you take any of this time to kind of review things, or you just recuperate?
Yeah, I look at some stuff fundamentally, mechanically, stuff that I can do better. But more importantly, I think it's just being able to take a step back, recoup from the previous weeks and the season and the bumps and the bruises that you get throughout the course of the start of the season. So it was just getting the mind, the body right to be able to go on this long stretch of games that we got coming up.
You've mainly avoided negative plays. You talked about avoiding those in general. You mainly avoid those this season. You had a couple that I'm guessing you'd like back against Houston.
Mm-hmm.
What was different on those plays that you noticed?
Yeah, I think for me, I was kicking myself a little bit, especially after the sack fumble. Just got to be situationally aware in that. Just understanding where we are on the field, understanding that they have a really good defense called against what we got in terms of our play call, and being able to either just dump it down to AJ on the check down. Maybe he gets the first down, breaks the tackle, and gets the first. Worst case scenario, we're punting the football. So just understanding the situation that way.
We saw you end up on the injury report yesterday. Is that anything serious at all for you? Or?
No, I'll be good.
Is that from Al Sayre on the sidelines?
I don't know what it's from. Just woke up a little sore the next day.
Jackson got Player of the Month. I know we've asked you about him a lot because he keeps putting up these numbers, but
yeah.
I mean, just your thoughts on him winning that and just what he did through the first 7 games of the season.
Yeah, I think we talk about it every week, it feels like now. Just, Jax being a really good player and understanding kind of, his role. He's a great player, but when they do want to take him away, other guys are going to be able to, shine a little bit. So understanding that, Jax does a really good job of understanding the plan every single week. His mindset going into every single game. I feel like he's so clear on what we're doing as an offense and what his role is as a receiver. So, I can't speak highly enough about that guy. But it really starts with days like today, with the way that he prepares.
You've been sacked 9 times all season. You were sacked 9 times in your last game against with the Vikings. How has that happened?
I think, first of all, it's a credit to the guys up front. Those guys doing a really good job protecting, communicating certain looks that are really tough to pick up. And I feel like our backs, our tight ends as well in protection are doing a really good job when needed. And then, when it comes to myself, just being able to get the ball out. And again, that's what I said kind of on that sack fumble against Houston. It was a play where I felt like I could have got the ball out, and just understanding situationally, like when the play might not be in our favor, after holding on to the ball a couple seconds and going through my progressions and being able to just get the ball out.
You've obviously played with, last year with Justin and things like that. How much can defenses really try to take one receiver out of a game, with Jackson and the way he's doing, and maybe defenses try to adjust to him?
Yeah, I feel like defensive coordinators and all the different coverages and the pressures that we see nowadays is so nuanced, and I feel like a lot of coordinators really like to switch it up, and especially with guys like Jax and with Justin and Jamar, all these guys around the league, Sometimes you got to play different coverages to them because if you just line up in the same coverages, sometimes that leaves you one-on-one opportunities. But then again, like there's really good defensive backs as well in the league that make their money guarding the best receivers. So sometimes as a defensive coordinator, you got to trust that as well. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but for us, it's just going out there, executing, and having a game plan for it.
There's a lot of check with me stuff, it seems like, in this offense. How's your freedom at the line of scrimmage compare in this system versus other systems?
Yeah, I feel like it's very similar. Going up to the line of scrimmage with 2 or 3 plays, depending on the situation or the game, how the flow of the game is going. So, I would say, the freedom to be able to, get to a different play and whatnot is pretty similar to the last couple systems I've been in.
Do you feel your ability to make that choice has improved or changed?
Yeah, for sure. I think just understanding defensive tendencies, understanding myself, the cadence that I use and different things. So and that's part of the bye week as well, the self-scout, part of that, being able to understand what my tendencies are as a quarterback, my cadences, all that. So just understanding that as a player is huge to be able to undress some of the defenses that we see.
I feel like as the season's progressed, you've gotten more comfortable with the offense in terms of throwing the ball downfield, not necessarily settling, but you're taking more shots. You're giving these guys chances on more of those 50-50 balls.
Yeah, I think that starts with communication, right? I feel like I've gotten to know Clint and Janoko and the coaches and a lot of the players as well more and more as the season goes on, and the ownership of the offense is only going to improve when that communication and you have that open dialogue. So I feel like it's just going to continue to grow and get better.
Cooper Kupp was asked yesterday about being the first guy in, kind of all the work he puts in studying, and he brought up the point he wasn't always the biggest guy coming up or the most physically gifted, so he felt like he needed to give himself that mental edge. How much did you notice that when you talk to him, sit down meetings with him, that he just possesses that?
Yeah, no, he's just as much as we talk about Jax every single week. I feel like we talk about Coop being a really smart player that just understands the game at a different level, and it's part of his experience, but it's also a huge part of the work that he puts in behind the scenes. And I know he doesn't necessarily like to talk about it. That's what we're for. We're here to talk for him and tell you guys how much work he puts in. So no, he's a great teammate, first and foremost, and that's I feel like that's really where it starts, is just how great of a teammate he is and what he's willing to share with the group in terms of like how much football knowledge that he has.
In terms of the tendencies and stuff, the self-scouting you're talking about, is there a certain coach, maybe your position coach, that breaks that down for you during the bye, or someone else?
Yeah, no, there's a ton of the coaches on the staff do a good job at understanding kind of what some of the tendencies are, looking at TV copies, all that stuff.
Can you guys tell in real time, like when they picked up on a tendency or a cadence or something like that, or is that a film thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain times in the game where the O-line will come up to me like, hey, let's switch up the cadence. They're getting a big jump. That's a big one. I feel like that's kind of pretty standard around the league with guys getting a jump. You got Leo back there studying my tendencies and what I'm doing during camp, and so they're doing it times 2 as they're getting ready to play us as an offense in the regular season.
Sam, in terms of third down efficiency, how do you not make first down, overemphasize that, yet make it important?
Yeah, I think every down's important. First of all, I think it's on first down, like I said before, you want to have positive plays. You want to keep the ball going forward. When you start to move back, you get in those second and longs. That's when the defense can kind of pin their ears back and understand that we got to pass the ball. In those certain situations, we like to try to keep the defense, on their toes a little bit. Still, even if we get in those second and longs, kind of. But I think for us, it really is, and for me personally, it's about just keeping the ball moving forward. Getting in those second and manageables, 3rd and 5 or less, if we can, to really, like I said, just keep the defense on their toes.
Do you feel like self-scout? How much are you spending in mechanics? Do you take a look at that, your mechanics also? I mean, I get the defense and the coverages, but how much then do you take a look at bye week, your footwork, your shoulder, all those things?
Yeah, that's a huge part of my game, especially during the bye week. Take a look at my mechanics, understanding certain throws that I'm missing consistently, and just being able to talk with the coaches and understanding a plan to kind of attack some things that I might necessarily not be doing the best.
All right, Sam, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.